Greetings, my friends. Welcome to the next episode of the Mint Mob Podcast. Jason here, joined by my buddy Alex across the pond in Germany. We're going to jump into the usual stuff, but before we do, let's check in with my buddy wearing a Goodfellas sweatshirt on camera. What's up, buddy? How are you?
What's up, man? I'm really good. I'm really good. I'm looking forward to Friday, actually. I have been seeing so much great art this week. I told you before we jumped on the podcast that there are actually so many people looking to create a piece for the artist Incubator. And yeah, looking forward to chat a little bit about the piece we are going to get on Friday. Looking forward to speak about crypto. Let's leave out pickleball and football this time. Yeah, I mean, crypto markets are not that interesting right now as well, right? Are you following the news and are you following what's happening in the crypto markets?
I haven't really been following it too closely. I just noticed that, when everything's on sale, I tend to make buys, and when it's not, I just watch it run. So, the long-term story is intact, and that's really the only story I care about. How about yourself?
Absolutely, but I always find it pretty interesting to see how it looks like people do not care about crypto at all when prices are down, right? Like when Bitcoin was at 120,000. I mean, you can follow the trends on Google, right? You can see how many people look for Bitcoin, how many people look for Solana altcoins. Everything, goes to the moon until Bitcoin is actually down and discounted and, it like for sale. And yeah, it's like human psychology. We've spoken about that so many times already that I feel like it's almost getting kind of, exhausting to repeat the same thing over and over again. But the truth is, if you want to acquire Bitcoin, the time is now. If you want to acquire Solana, I think Solana is somewhere at 80 or 70 or something, which is, whenever I pay in euro, it even gets a little cheaper. So I pay like 60 euro for one Solana, and it's crazy compared to where we've been like 1 year ago. And it's actually like it's even interesting to see when I go into negotiations with artists. Most of you guys know that we pay the artists we get for the artist incubator, and when we get into these negotiations, I have to keep in mind that the Solana price is really low right now. And we haven't like we usually stuck or stick to the same price when it came to the artist incubator pieces. So we have to do the calculation and we have to do the math, right? And it's like when we do negotiations with artists, it's usually in USDC, but we mint in Solana. Solana is really cheap right now, and you always have to see how things work together. I mean, you guys know or realize that Viorika, the one we have right now, is actually or probably the one we have with the most like followers we ever had. I'm not sure. Like I think she has around 15,000. So she is actually, quite big. And that's like real. Sometimes I people reach out to me and you see like 10,000 followers, and then you look at their posts and it's like reaching 80 people or 90 people. And Viorika is actually like you can see that it's legit. And obviously she asks or can ask for more money than other people can. So yeah, we need to do the math, but in the end it's about holding Solana, and Solana will probably go up in the future. What do you think?
Solana's had a tremendous amount of good news. I just posted or reposted the week in review. Solana does a pretty good job of encapsulating what's been going on. Let me see if I can pull this up because the laundry list of accomplishments was, it's pretty incredible, really, to be honest with you.
Didn't you just share a post today, like from Solana, something
Yeah, it
Solana
was
related?
well, it was like the middle of the night for me because I was up super late. But from just some of the highlights, like Citibank executing a tokenized bill of exchange natively on Solana. Solana RWA total value hit an all-time high of $1.6 billion with 285,000 unique holders. Goldman Sachs discloses $108 million in SOL holdings. SushiSwap expanded to Solana. That's just a few of them. There's a ton of different things that have been going on. And then, of course, if you were paying attention to the Solana conference Breakpoint, then you heard even more. And it's only gotten better. From the phone to the tech to the hackathons that they're running right now. There's a lot of energy and effort going into building on Solana, and it makes sense. When you compare Solana's tech to ETH's tech, ETH has the running start on smart contracts. They're kind of like the godfather of putting smart contracts on chain. But I mean, the truth is, it's a clunky chain, and the wallets are clunky, and everything is slower and more expensive. And if you're a business, that's not what you want. You want something that moves faster. You want something that's smooth. You want something that, is reliable and all of those things. And Solana is basically growing into that position in the marketplace. So, who knows what will happen in the future, but Solana's future is looking really good. And I wouldn't be surprised to see, $500 or $600 Solana in the very near future.
Did you read Vitalik's post a couple, I think it was actually weeks ago, when he talked about Ethereum and that layer 2s would not be necessary anymore with the, with all the updates coming to Ethereum. And I'm not sure, like from an infrastructure perspective and how it's built, can Ethereum outperform Solana when it comes to transactions and volume and gas fees and stuff like that?
I don't know. I mean, if you make a thing not the thing that it is, then yeah, I mean, you can turn it into something that it isn't right now, right? Like that's the whole point of updates and development. But I was laughing at what you said earlier because I've been saying this now for a year, and I've been telling everyone who's on these ETH level 2s to get the fuck off. They are completely useless. They serve zero purpose. They are redundant, and in most cases, completely useless. So if, Vitalik is the one out there preaching this message now, obviously he's going to get a lot more attention than my little account on X ever will. So listen to the guy, I mean, he's kind of smart, even though he looks like a reject from, the Bad News Bears or something. Like he's a smart guy and he understands how these things work, and technology is going to go where the users demand that it go. It's not going to go anywhere else. So if the users are demanding, faster transactions, less clunkiness in the chain, which is what you get a lot with Ethereum wallets and transactions, less expense, that's where the tech will ultimately go. In the same way that, the Lightning channel exists to make Bitcoin faster, cheaper, like if ETH does the same thing, like the market is telling you what it wants. It wants fast, cheap, and easy, right? We've gotten fast and we've gotten cheap. We just got to work on the easy part. That's where the UI comes into play.
I'm not sure if you can put it in easy words, but how does like a layer 2 chain even work? Like, is it like its own blockchain? Like if you take Base, for example, or look at Solana. When we take Solana, was Bonk, for example, the famous meme coin, was that a layer 2 chain? Did they have an operating blockchain, or was it just a random coin running on Solana?
I honestly didn't take a look at Bonk at all because it's called Bonk. The same reason I'm not looking at Pepe coin and, Jimbo's shitcoin. I don't care. They are all useless and worthless at the end of the day. And you can argue, oh, well, community this, community that, whatever. Well, I mean, you can have a community on the main chain. So there's really no point in having, some little insignificant offshoot of the main chain, like running on the chain. Like, it's kind of like the argument of commodities versus companies, right? Like if you are investing in traditional companies, and let's say that company is ExxonMobil, right? Well, you can buy ExxonMobil, but ExxonMobil rides on top of the gas and oil market, the oil and gas market, right? Or you can just buy oil and gas. Which of those two things is most foundational to the business? Well, if you've had shitty managers and really bad, systems in place at the business level, well, the oil and gas is still there. It's still valuable. There's still a need for it. You're still gonna be in a position where your oil and gas is worth something. Whereas, you're gonna get leverage with the company. It's kind of the same thing with like Bonk or these L2s riding on top of the main chain. Like the hope is that you're gonna get some sort of leverage. But I mean, at the end of the day, I would rather own the underlying asset because it's a safer asset to own, especially in sort of the wild, wild west that is Web3 still. And it's the same reason that, people like Jim Rogers, one of the most famous investors in the world, buys commodities, because he wants to remove the complexity of the company that rides on top of the commodity. He would rather own gold or silver or gas and oil, or wheat and pork bellies, rather than the companies that produce products based on those things. And he's made, millions and millions of dollars doing that over the course of his career. So like at the end of the day, it just comes down to your risk tolerance. Bonk is extremely risky, as evidenced by its price action. The L2s, as you can see from the ETH charts, have gone basically to zero. Most of them are almost useless and worthless. ETH isn't doing that well either, to be quite honest with you. It's been trading under 2,000 off and on for the last few weeks. So, there's a lot of problems right there, and that consolidation is what's going to push ETH back up. So the consolidation away from the L2s, which is basically just a consolidation of quality, which is another topic that we've been talking about. These are all going to drive innovation, because it's going to put money back into where it's most useful. And if I'm ETH, the best money to be spent is going to be on the main chain, not on the offshoots. Base is a little bit of a different story, because it's backed by Coinbase. So Coinbase is an economy in and of itself, and it can support itself no matter what happens with ETH or the rest of it. And they're building a social platform on top of the chain, and it will be, basically fueled by this token. So, I don't think Base is going to go anywhere, but ultimately, would I rather own Base or ETH? Well, I'd rather own ETH, to be honest with you.
Yeah, me too, absolutely. But did you, let me just check to get my information right. Yeah, I got it. Did you read the post coming from, was it Raoul Pal? No, I think it was Ray Dalio 2 or 3 days ago, where he made like a huge article saying it's official, the world order has broken down. That was actually a pretty big thing on social media, and he was basically telling us, let me just go through it to get it right. With all the conflicts going on, like whether it's capital wars, technology wars, trade economic wars, military wars, that you see people fleeing into gold and silver and physical assets, and that we are at like a historical point, like in human history. And I think he even added some sort of graphic where he compared it to, obviously the world wars, even Napoleonic wars of religion, like even back into the 1600s, 1700s. And now we are here at that point, and, we will see like a big change. Do you see something like that happening? I think he said that this is, happens on average every 150 years.
Yeah, there's a lot of these different cycles that you can sort of overlay, and this is what he's doing with his research. For those of you guys who follow Ray, his book is great. Principles, if you guys are interested in learning more about what he talks about. But he's got some great videos where he just kind of breaks down the topics, and he talks about the cycles of basically, it's just creative destruction over and over again, basically. And whether you believe in Ray's quote unquote big cycle, or you believe in Kondratiev waves, which is another one that supposedly lasts every like 70 to 80 years, basically the lifetime of a human, where we go through the building phase and we go through the getting spoiled phase, which is what the West is doing. And then you go into the decline phase, the dissolution phase, the war phase, and then you start all over again. And I mean, this is just kind of like the history of humanity. And I think overlaying the timelines the way that he does kind of makes it make sense. But you can just summarize it in that, what's that meme? What is it? Like strong men create good times create weak men create bad times create strong men, and then you just start all over again. And that's where we're at. Like, we've been basically living really well in the West and in Western Europe off the backs of historical events and the backs of people who have done great things. And the vast majority of new populations haven't contributed a lot to, furthering that. We've contributed a lot to feminizing the society, making it almost like a toxic empathy situation where, Western democracies have become basically welfare centers. And of course, these welfare centers draw in immigrants from all over the world. And then you throw in the political regimes who want to be elected by the people who seek free, welfare schemes the world over. And then they want to import these people, which is kind of where we are right now in the West, kind of fighting against that. You're even seeing the pushback in Europe now. Like, at the end of the day, you can't have mass migration into Western democracies that are promising people free shit, because you draw in all of the wrong people. And that's kind of what's happening. So now you see society fighting. You see people on one side or the other, fighting. And then what happens is it's like, okay, well, where's the common ground anymore? If we don't have a national, sort of value system, or any form of nationalistic pride is considered racist or xenophobic, which is complete ridiculousness, then you end up with one person on one side of the fence and someone on the other side of the fence who just want to go at each other because they lack common values. And make no mistake, that's what this is all about. So as values continue to be at odds, people will pick sides, and there will be some major conflicts. Whether those turn into hot war, kinetic war or not, remains to be seen, but that's what history tells us will happen. And there's a great meme that I love that says that, the only thing that humans learn from history is that they don't learn from history. So it kind of falls in line with that whole idea of, if you don't learn from history, you're doomed to repeat it kind of a thing, but just said in a pithy way. So that's kind of where we're at. In my opinion, things could get worse. And so we'll just have to see if we can find common ground or not. We have the potential for that, but history tells us that we're not good at, realizing our potential.
Whenever we jump into that kind of stuff, I feel like I'm trying to see that we do not get too political again, but, obviously markets and politics are kind of, coming together. But let's jump a little bit into the world of NFTs. And I saw that X had some outages today, for some reason, not for you, but for me. And I think that happened many times recently, actually. Like when you check the history, I think in January it was down for a couple hours. It had issues. You couldn't load comments and everything. And that led to the question, it's like, for me, or actually I saw a tweet that said that artists in Web3 heavily rely on that platform. And we actually had a conversation before, and we spoke about whether, if X died, for example, if all of the artists would flee to another platform and it would work just as good, or if people are relying on X and they need X, and it's like the best platform for NFTs. I mean, I think we all agree that Instagram, for example, is a lot more visual, right? It's more about pictures and images than X is. But I feel like, building connections. Yeah, I'm not sure. Like, give me your shot on your opinion on that first.
On what? On the selling of art on X?
Yeah, do you feel like if X shut down from one day to the other because we found out Elon has been on Epstein Island and nobody uses X anymore, and will artists have problems selling their art? Do they actually need X or not?
No one needs X to sell anything, and this is just factually true. First of all, like, if you're going to sell something, you want to go where the money is. And in terms of like crypto X, in the conversations that you and I have had with artists and buyers, I mean, we're not talking about people who are just loaded with cash here. Very few people are like killing it in the Web3 game. So like, if I were going to build an art sales business, I wouldn't even start on X. I would start on something like Facebook, because at the end of the day, between Facebook, Threads, Instagram, and WhatsApp, I've got all the tools that I need. I've got an AI-powered ad platform, and I would run ads to sell my stuff. and I would storytell there. In fact, one of the most incredible artists that I've ever found, I found on Facebook because I just started liking art, and so it started showing me more. And people are doing a really good job of storytelling in long form film. And so this one girl, I can't remember her name. I cross posted it over to X because she doesn't appear there very often. But she basically tells the story of creating these massive canvases, and they're absolutely beautiful. They're very photorealistic. And when you watch her paint, it's just captivating. And so you can just see on Facebook, like just thousands and thousands of comments and likes. And, then of course, this links back to her galleries where she's selling pieces upwards of, $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, dollars per work. And she's got almost nothing for sale. So she's doing really well. And so, if you have talent, it doesn't really matter where, or a skill that you've honed, it doesn't really matter where you post it. It matters how you present it and to whom you present it. There's a funny little video of 50 Cent talking about a bottle of water. I don't know if you've seen this. He's like, a bottle of water at the grocery store is $2. Bottle of water at the theater is like $3 or $4. Bottle of water on an airplane is $7. It's not about the bottle of water. It's about where it is and who you're selling it to, right? And it's the same thing for art. So I would just, we've had this conversation in a few different art spaces. Very few artists know anything about marketing. What they do is they post and they hope, and that's not marketing. So like if you're posting and hoping, all the platforms are going to work the same for you. If you're posting with intent and you're asking for deals and you're building relationships and you're telling the story, you're going to be successful no matter where you go, because in all populations, there are people who enjoy the beauty of a story and the beauty of collecting art. And so, that's why I can go, it's funny, like when we were off mic talking about this, you're like, well, does anyone even use Facebook? Like, how many people are on Facebook? And you looked it up, it was like 3 billion active monthly users. So almost half the planet uses Facebook. But in like the little dark corner of anonymous crypto X, some dickhead is sitting in a dark room beside a bare light bulb writing angry letters to the government talking about how, X is the best place. It's not. It's absolutely not. It's not even close. So yeah, if X went dark and you knew how to market, you could basically take a direct sales letter campaign and still sell your stuff. You just have to know how to market.
You already mentioned that most of the artists do not really have an idea of how to do proper marketing. I think, we've mentioned that over and over again, that a lot of that stuff comes down to building relationships. Mm-hmm. And if you compare all the artists we had on Spaces and, who spoke to the audience, do you feel like there is any one of them like doing an outstanding job comparing to the others? Or do you feel like do you feel like when you hear them talking and when you see that timeline, do you feel like do you have a sense of whether they have a good, sense of marketing or not?
I think that there are two different types of artists here. There are people who are very good at what they do. Okay. You could take Viorika as an example. She's very good at what she creates, and her pieces, when you see them, they evoke some sort of emotion in you when you connect to it, right? Muna Luna is another one. Her name is Manaz, and like her work evokes a certain feeling in you, right? There's a few others that I could just cite that say, okay, well, look at this person, that person, and, you can tell that they're highly skilled at the craft that they have honed. And I'm specifically avoiding using the word talent because no one is talented. You have honed a skill or you have not honed a skill. End of story. Daria is a perfect example of someone who has honed a set of skills. So when you see people who are very good at what they do, they can post a photo of or an image that they've created and have a good shot at someone making an offer on that piece, especially in the circles that we run in the art circles. Now, the middle of the road people are not going to be as successful. The middle of the road people, the people who are sort of in the space where they're honing their skills, but they're not quite there yet. They're not really evoking emotion, but they're showing some promise. These people are not going to sell just by posting. They have to have something else in addition to, like a relationship with the buyer. And I see this over and over and over again. Someone will post a thing and they're kind of in that middle of the road area between being, decent to good, but not fantastic. And someone will be like, "Oh, I love this piece." And you'll find that they've bought all their other stuff and that they're, constantly in contact with this person. There's a relationship there that's forcing the sale. And that is what you lose if you're an artist on X and X goes away. You lose that connection to that person. But that doesn't mean if you know how to contact this person, say, for example, you had an email list, which is still the highest converting form of marketing, that you could just invite them to join you on Instagram, right? This is why you don't want to rely on social media so much, because you don't control it. So the big thing that the direct response marketers will always instill is you want to always own your buyers list. And if you're not doing that, you're going to have a real problem. So highly skilled, very good at evoking emotion artists are going to do well by posting. They'll do even better if they tell a story, show a video, show themselves. Middle of the road people do well by building relationships with people who are trying to encourage them to continue. And everyone else doesn't do anything. They sit back and complain. So the answer is get good at marketing, get good at what you do, and combine the two of them. And you won't have a problem no matter what platform you use.
Every now and then we see artists coming to us asking about, the chance to be part of the artist incubator. And, many times those are artists who are not really able to sell their stuff. When you jump onto their X handles or accounts, you see sometimes 200-300 followers, no sales, no nothing. And, sometimes I look at these art pieces and I feel like they're actually good, right? Like the pieces are good. They look fine. You're obviously not able to sell, but should I, if you consider that our collectors actually do want to have a good relationship to the artist, and we want them on spaces, and like that always makes me wonder, is it enough if the piece is good or not? Or does it need more? Because in the end, I remember having spaces where people like Mark showed up who said things like, "If I like it, I buy it," right? And then I feel like, okay, then we, shouldn't take too much or pay too much attention to, things like followers. Are people showing themselves? Is it enough if the art is good, right? And that gets quite difficult, especially with AI being in place now, where almost everyone can create something beautiful, and that always is quite demanding when it comes to selecting whether an artist is good for the artist incubator or not. What do you think? Is it important that people do have these skills of speaking and building relationships and you're doing these things good in order to be on our platform?
I can't think of a single scenario where having great communication skills doesn't help you.
Mm-hmm.
Not one. So yes, it absolutely helps. And I feel like artists, the ones that you're referring to that come to us that don't really have a sort of history or background, these are the ones who really need to focus on the communication aspect of what they're doing, because a lot of them are very good, but you can tell they haven't put in the time to, sort of invest in their social, in their socials. And that doesn't mean that they should, like maybe some of these people are selling more of their art in the real world, and that's where they should focus. And they could probably sell more of it if they invite those people onto the digital platform, so you start cross-pollinating a little bit, right? But that requires the buyer to do something different. And of course, collectors are creatures of habit. So when I look at the space, and specifically referring to the Goodfellas Artist Incubator Gallery, the one that we produce and curate, the best thing an artist can do is show up and promote what it is that they are dropping in the gallery. and demonstrate that they're going to communicate well about what it is that they're putting forth in the gallery, because that helps us sell their art. And when we can sell their art easily, it makes us want to do more business with them. So this is the same thing that, galleries do. Like, a gallery wants to work with an artist that can sell art. They're going to have gallery showings, they're going to have social events, et cetera, et cetera. And they want the artist to be able to communicate to the buyers, hey, this is why this piece matters, and this is why, you should buy it from these people, or what have you. It's the same sort of a thing. So yeah, the biggest asset you can bring to someone else is a solution to their problem, right? And I think a lot of artists are young, especially on X, the anonymous ones who aren't really investing in themselves. They're really basically sort of figuring out how this whole thing works, and not really understanding that great relationships, especially business relationships, are always win-win. Because in their mind, a lot of times, especially coming from the youthful side of things, business is a bad word. Money is a bad word. These are things that are negatives. These are things that prevent me, or limit me, or, these are things that the gatekeepers do, blah, blah, blah. The truth is, like, if you show up with a win-win proposition, anyone will listen to it, because you're basically saying, I'm honoring you by showing you what's in it for you. So if an artist comes to me and they say, listen, hey, I've got this wonderful piece for your gallery, and I am going to promote like a mofo every day leading up to the drop. I'm going to make sure that people get eyes on this. I'm going to be like, hey, let's take a look at it. Let's have a conversation, because you're helping solve my problem. I'm helping solve your problem by putting you on a platform where collectors buy your stuff. You're helping me solve a problem by putting my gallery in front of more eyeballs, right? And in that way, we both win. And so many artists don't understand that the nature of business is always win-win. No business can survive if there's no win-win proposition. They think of it as a selfish take, greedy, they imagine the Monopoly man, with the glasses and the cigar and the big fat belly, like sitting in a room, ha ha ha, counting his money. But that's not how business works. Business is win-win. And if you can understand that, and really all relationships are win-win. If you can understand that and bring that to the forefront, you're going to have a good chance with pretty much anyone that you speak to.
I just always wonder whether it's maybe even some kind of cultural thing. I mean, we can be transparent, right? Like many
Sure.
artists who come to us and ask for collaborations are Iranian artists, and we have had Iranian artists, right? Like we had Art Naz, we had Saharn, but I feel like there is like an Iranian community on of artists maybe, and they just recommend us and tell them maybe like, hey, reach out to them, maybe you can be part of the artist incubator. And then these guys reach out, I check their X accounts, I see not much going on there, and I wonder whether even if you look at the communications they have with other people, and that's why I wondered if it's like a cultural thing, because if you look at the we have many people from Russia, from Ukraine, European countries, American people. um, the culture is different compared to Iran, right? And I felt like maybe it's because those guys are not as outgoing, not as talkative, not as enthusiastic, or they do not show that as much. I mean, on the other hand, suddenly Emuna Luna shows up, and she's all that as well, right? Like she's so fired up and loving and talking to us like very hyped about everything. And yeah, I'm not sure. Like, I felt like with Art Naz or with Saharan, it felt heavy. Like it felt like I had like more of a professional relationship in terms of very distanced, and like as if we paid for some work for hire and they just delivered it and that's it. While others are doing a much better job of communications and promoting, and you see that in the numbers, right? Like you look at Viorika, like going to a space not feeling secure, like or feeling insecure with the language and still doing such a great job. that, that takes balls, right? And with Anarchy as a support, I mean, she was there as her kind of backup, but she wasn't really needed. That's such a great thing, right? And I, I can see that many artists deal with some kind of anxiety when it comes to speaking publicly. Um, but yeah, I can just recommend doing it, right? Like whenever people did that, the response was always really positive. And yeah, Jason, to you as well. Speak publicly a little more. It's like it's so unfair. You have been so you like when I talked to you first. I think you did like how many podcasts did you do before that one? Like you had a podcast, right? Or you have one like going on or something. I think before I jumped on the first episode with you, I think there is even a YouTube video of you like where you did like an interview with two other guys, and that's like you could see that you practiced speaking for a very long time, and that's obviously the result here. And whenever there is like a complicated question on spaces from people regarding the galleries or something, I always look happy when you unmute your mic and answer to these people, because I know there is going to be a great answer. And you are the way you speak, it's very confident and all that stuff. And you can practice that, right? Like even if you compare Spaces episodes we have from the very beginning, I do that from time to time to compare the development of the quality of Spaces from the very beginning to today, and it changed. And I bet that when you listen to Maria, for example, who is not native as well, who was probably not familiar speaking publicly, and when you listen to her first Spaces and listen to how she speaks today, how confident, and everybody loves when she speaks. She's very enthusiastic and yeah, caring for everyone, and she's doing a great job, right? Like Maria's probably, when it comes to promotion, one of the best ones out there that we're in touch with. And I mean, obviously very hardworking. Yeah, but I'm not sure. Like, do you feel like you can teach people? Like you can tell people and artists like you should do that for your own best?
Yeah. Yeah, of course. Absolutely. You can absolutely do that. Every trait or characteristic that one human displays, another human can display as well. It may not be as natural for one as it is for another, but any trait, especially something like communication, can be practiced and honed. And when I listen back to Spaces, what I do is I count all my ahs, all of my likes, my lip smacks. I'm grading myself because I do a lot of that in normal conversation. And Spaces to me are just sort of an open forum where we just converse normally. I'm not trying to present an idea and make it like professional. I'll do that if I feel like the question warrants it. But for the most part, I'm trying to be conversational. And, so when I'm listening back, I'm hearing all of my mistakes. That's all I hear. I don't hear anything good. I just hear all of the mistakes, because the next time around, I want to try to improve that. And so in this conversation, you'll notice that I've said a lot less ahs, and likes, because that was the goal that I set for this conversation, having listened to the last one, right? And to do that, it's just a matter of being conscious of the fact that you're doing it. And if you're not listening back or, taking note of the fact that, oh, wow, I felt like I had to fill every space with a sound, or, I odd, I like this, that, the other thing. I sounded like Valley girl from Southern California. Every statement was a question. Like when you're listening to all these different things and you just make a conscious decision, okay, well, I'm going to start working on this, saying less likes, saying less saying less ahs. I'm going to let space exist in the conversation. I'm not going to interrupt the speaker or the person that I'm speaking to with my opinions or what have you, right? And you just start practicing those things. In the same way that, you can take, I can use my own life as an example. Like in my household, the house I grew up in was not a very social house. My mom and my dad both came from abused homes. right? They both came from pretty rough, upbringings. And so we didn't have a lot of people in the house. And so when people, come into our house today, or when I go to someone's home, like my wife's home, for example, it's always like, hey, how you doing? There's always like a greeting when you come into the house. Well, when I grew up, when you walked into the house, the first thing I did was avoid everybody and go straight to my room. And that was it. I didn't say hello, didn't do nothing, But as an adult, I realized that that's not a very effective social strategy. So when I go to someone's home, I project warmth and I project confidence and positive energy, because that's more fruitful from a social perspective. And you have to start thinking in terms of, okay, well, these are all behaviors I can develop over time. Or you can have the fixed mindset of, well, this is just who I am, man. And I'm never going to change, man. And so, it just comes back to, like Carol Dweck's great book called Mindset. There's two mindsets. There's a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. And too many people fall into the fixed mindset where they think, oh, this is just who I am. And a lot of times it's kind of funny. There's this big push right now in non-anonymous social media for people to be authentic. Be authentically you. Be yourself, right? And Seth Godin, who is an author and a great marketer as well, by the way, says that, it's probably not a good strategy in most cases, because the you that you are behind closed doors, or the you that you are and comfortable with, is not the person that your client or your friend might need. So you might want to be what they need in the moment if you plan on having a better social strategy. So if I'm walking into a retail store, if I go into a retail store and it's like low-end retail, like Walmart or Target or, whatever store I'm in, grocery store, and I ask someone for help, a lot of times it's just like, I'll say something like, hey, where's the dark chocolate or whatever? And they'll be like, oh, it's over on aisle whatever. It's over on aisle 15, halfway down. If I walk into like a high-end retail store, like if I walk into, like Prada, and I say, hey, I'm looking for a purse for my wife, the salesperson's going to be like, okay, let me show you. Let's walk over here together. Here's what's going on. The salesperson doesn't want to do that. They want to say, it's over there. It's right there, dickhead. The store is not that big. It's literally right there. You can see it from the center of the mall. It's right over there, right? But he wants to be, or she wants to be, what I need in that moment so that they get a sale and that it's positive experience for me and for the business, right? So they walk me over there. They tell me about it. And even though I know all these stupid purses are made in the same factory in fucking Taiwan, they want to charge me $2,000 for this stupid purse. And my wife wants it because it's got a fancy brand name on it, right? So they're trying to play up the experience. They're being the person that I need them to be in order for me to part with that much money, right? And so when you're doing all of these things, like we're coming back to how artists are being in the space, a lot of times you can tell like an artist really doesn't want to be there or really doesn't want to communicate, and they're not really into it. Like what you were talking earlier, like talking to some artists feels heavy, like the energy isn't there. But then you can talk to someone, like Viorika, for example, or Anishi, and they make you want to divorce your wife and go marry a Russian woman because they're so happy and they're so upbeat and they're so energetic. And it's like, damn, how come I don't have a Russian woman? Not only is their artwork great, but their attitude is amazing, right? Like they really want to be here, and it shows, right? And it's just a silly example, but at the end of the day, who do you want to be around? Do you want to be around someone who's, sort of downtrodden and heavy all the time? Or do you be around someone who's upbeat and positive and, trying to create and put beauty forth in the world, right? It's a really easy answer. And there's no reason that, there's no, sort of mystery as to why people respond better to people who are positive, uplifting people than they do the people who are like, oh, woe is me, life is so bad, blah, 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 right? It's really easy to be around people who are, who want you to be a better person and want to create a positive experience. So absolutely how you communicate matters. Who you are It's fine if you want to be who you are behind closed doors, but when you go into the world, if you have any form of self-awareness, you want to be what is needed in the moment. And what that is may not be who you quote unquote are. So that means you might have to expand your mind a little bit and dance on a stage that you're not comfortable dancing on, and say some things you've never said before, and, you know, be warmer than you normally would be, and all the other things, right? It's just kind of how it is.
Oh man, I know many people who'd strongly disagree now and who'd be like love me or hate me, but don't try to change me. You know that shit that teenage girls wrote over their images when they were like, don't try to change me. I'm like, I'm the way I am.
Okay,
And it's like,
all right, we got to talk about this just really quick. Just really quick. We're going to go into mindset really quick. Relationships. Okay. You mentioned the podcast that I ran before we started. The podcast that I ran before was about human expansion and personal development. That's kind of where my background lies. In terms of coaching people, both physically and mentally. We ran CrossFit gyms and et cetera, et cetera. But, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars paid in personal development over the years, right? So the thing about relationships is, like, all relationships are a value proposition. And the minute that value proposition isn't met, there's a problem in the relationship. So you can see this throughout the world, across all cultures. You'll see, we'll use a really easy example, right? There's some old fat dude who's rich as fuck, and he's married to some 25-year-old, you know, model, right? What is the value proposition here? The value proposition is simply this: she gets all access to the resources that she wants to live a comfortable life, right? That's her value proposition from him. He gets to walk around with a hot chick and the status that's associated with being associated with or having a hot chick on his arm. That's her value proposition to him. The minute he's poor, that relationship is over. The minute she's fat and ugly, that relationship is over. Because again, it's based on a certain set of, you know, value exchange. Really simple. Same thing in any relationship. Friends, like, you have that one friend that makes you laugh, right? You've got that one friend that you can talk to about, you know, difficult things. You know, you've got that one friend that likes to meet you at the bar and have a couple drinks, right? And you exchange those values. But if you start to break that value proposition, those relationships start to fall apart, which is why, like, when you get out of college and you start, you know, like seeing a woman seriously, and you're like, in your position, you know, you're engaged to be married, you know, hanging out at the bar becomes less important, because now the value that you want in your life is changing. You're thinking about long-term things with long-term people, and that doesn't involve, you know, blowing money at the local bar when you can buy the same drink for a tenth the cost and stay home with your wife, right? Or your fiance. And so you have to realize all relationships are value proposition, which by definition means that who you are may not be enough. You know, I love all of this feminine nonsense that gets thrown into the world. Oh, you're enough. No, you're probably not enough. You know, you're probably not.
It's actually like you can relate all that to the whole topic of body positivity, right?
Absolutely. 100%. 100%. All of this toxic empathy nonsense that people keep throwing into the world. And then we wonder why teenage girls have the highest depression rate of any teenage group, right? Because they've been lied to their entire fucking life. Okay. So, I mean, at the end of the day, like, these are important concepts, and they kind of relate back to marketing, because when we go into the world, we're always marketing ourselves to some degree. And we have to realize that the people that we're working with, there is a value proposition that has to exist in order for us to have access to that person, right? Like, there's a reason that very few people have access to Elon Musk, for example. His time is limited. He's on a mission to colonize the moon now, and ultimately Mars. So if you're not talking to him about something that's productive, he ain't going to meet with you. You know, if you can't help him amplify his message, like, he's not going to meet with you, right? So at the end of the day, like, access has to do with value, and value has to do with your skill sets that you've honed over a period of time, not what you were born with, right? So if you're an artist and you want access to a gallery, then you need to prove that you're worthy of being in that gallery by showing that you have a certain set of skills or value to bring. If you and I are going to be in business together, building something like Goodfellas, there has to be a value proposition between the two of us. Hey, you handle the X posts. Hey, I'll handle the NFT nonsense, whatever. Like whatever that agreement is that we come up with, there has to be a value proposition or the relationship will cease to exist because it'll be strained, right? And this is always true. So anyone listening to this, whether you're an artist or whatever, just think about the relationship that you want to create. And then you have to become the person who's capable of providing value of the person you want to have access to. That's the whole game.
Dude, like when we first spoke about going going video, we said that there is like a great opportunity to clip some things, and this was like one moment where I felt like this should be clipped and sent to all artists out there in order to understand that, right? Like because it's so valuable and true.
Thank
But
you.
yeah, enough off topic here, but it was actually not off topic. But let's jump a little bit into what's coming this week in the Goodfellas. We obviously have Viorika's drop coming up. Oh my God, I forgot the name. Eternitas, I think it's called. And yeah, it's set to drop on Friday at 5 p.m. UTC. 21 editions with number 21 signed by. Have you already found a good spot for the signature?
Not yet. I haven't set up the mint, but I will definitely make sure that it's in a cool spot.
That's great. I think the piece is really like it's really really unique and great. And I think if you guys love Viorika's art, it's actually, would you say that it's like you could see this as like some sort of signature piece from her? Do you feel like it's similar to the other things she recently created, or do you feel like it's totally different?
It's a little more fantastic than some of the stuff that I've seen from
Mm-hmm.
her, which I think is really
Yeah.
interesting. And actually, I showed it to Dustin Brunel, the founder of Ethereal Comics, that I am
Mm-hmm.
working on getting a deal with. And I used that as the example of one of the things that we're going to be adding to the gallery because I thought it was strong enough to be like a featured character in a comic. And I thought he would appreciate that. And he did. He liked it. So, I feel like it's got a fantasy element, maybe feels a little bit Lord of the Rings, but all at the same time, not too far off base from just normal humanity. And it's just a beautiful piece. So I think the story that goes with it, obviously we'll drop that into the description field for the NFT, but you guys are going to love it. It's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, and like I said on Spaces, I'd love to talk to Viorika about the piece and the symbolism in the background, or like the arms are pretty special, the positioning of the arms and all that stuff is actually so interesting. Where I feel like why did she decide to do it that way? And yeah, I demand an explanation here. So yeah, looking forward to that. Viorica mentioned that it's her daughter's birthday, so she's not sure if she can make it, but she's trying it. And yeah, I'd love to have her, but family first, of course. And yeah, regardless of her attending Spaces or not, we will get some words and get her to speak about the piece, whether it's on podcast or written. So looking forward to all that. And on top of that, we got the core pieces ready today. So core pieces are ready for distribution. Make sure to submit the pieces you have. I know, or we know, some are stuck in staking. Um, I'm not sure, like, are people still able to, like, if I ask people to submit their wallets, will I be able to see the stuck pieces in the wallets, or are they in some staking wallet?
If they just go to the Floppy Labs website, the link is still in the Trusted Links channel, and connect their
Mm-hmm.
wallet, it'll pull up
Mm-hmm.
all of the pieces that they have staked. And they can just basically
Yeah, no, but
screenshot that.
yeah, I think some people did, but the issue is that it's obviously much easier for me if I have the numbers, right? Instead
Yep.
of looking at every single piece and trying to find it among the pieces I have ready. So I was just asking to see if I could, check the wallets and copy paste the numbers, or if people actually need to connect to floppy and or would have to do that manually.
I think what you might want to do, or I don't know if you want to, you probably have to teach people how to do this. But when you go to any website nowadays, especially one that's tabled like Floppy Labs or whatever, where it's kind of like displayed in a gallery, and then there's the name of the NFT underneath it. You can take your mouse and copy all of those things, and just do a Control C, copy it, and then open up Notepad or WordPad and do a Control V, and it'll only paste in the text. And then they could just send you the text like it's this NFT, and then you can just look at the numbers, boom, 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 just like that. That's what I was doing over the weekend, trying to figure some of this stuff out, like copying, large pages of text on SoulScan and then pasting into Notepad, because Notepad doesn't support images. It just pulls in the text. It's really easy.
Yeah, see, man, here we'd have the second clip I take and then share with people. But yeah, that's great. I mean, I'll maybe make a little video or tell people how to do it, and then we should be good. Any additional information we need to get out? Have I forgotten anything?
I don't think so. Big drop on Friday. Obviously, hopefully we get Viorika, I keep saying the wrong accent, Viorika with us on Friday. Piece is gorgeous. Everyone's going to love it. We do need to get information out to her so she can invite her collectors to pick up the piece, because I need to get those wallets early, or I can't set up the mint. But aside from that, everything should be golden sauce. And of course, bosses will have first go at the piece, and we'll go from there. Bosses and high-end collectors, of course.
Absolutely. And with the amount of Russian-speaking artists we have, dude, like we need to learn a little Russian, I think. Do you know any words in Russian?
I don't, man. It's funny because I just bought two pieces, or I bought a couple pieces from another artist. I'm almost scared to say the name because I know STC is going to like start buying all her pieces out from under me now, like she did with Anna. But yeah, so I say like send me the piece from my gallery or whatever to my email, and so I get the email, and it's it's in Cyrillic, Cyrillic. It's in the Cyrillic lettering, and I can't even read the Cyrillic lettering, so I have to copy and paste it into Translate, and then it translates the name of the person and all of the description and everything. So yeah, I mean, definitely have to learn a little bit of Russian for sure.
Absolutely, yeah. And obviously some Arabic for the Iranian people as well, but
Persian.
yeah, man, the Persian.
It's Persian, yeah.
Know. But you thought you'd get through with your little Spanish, right? Unfortunately, there's nobody else speaking Spanish other than Maria. Oh, we got Lucia, of course.
Well, Lucia, yeah, Lucia and Maria for sure. They've got the Spanish. They're holding down the Spanish fort, and then we've got tons and tons of Persian speakers and tons of Russian speakers or Ukrainian speakers, which are similar. So, yeah, we don't speak any of those languages.
Yeah, not much we can do other than just learn it, right? That's our homework until next week.
Get on it, man. You're the language guy. You can do it. I believe in you.
Yeah, man, my responsibility. I'll do it. All right, fellas. So we are looking forward to Friday. We will have a little mint party as always. We look forward to see you guys around. Don't forget to submit your pieces, and we'll see you guys. Until then, bye-bye.
Good day, guys.